Do the Minnesota Vikings have a Justin Jefferson problem? We're going to be talking about that on today's edition of Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and I appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. And also later on today's show, I do want to talk about a major change that I would make for the Vikings with the final 3 remaining games. The Vikings already eliminated from playoff contention. There's one change I want to make defensively on the defensive line that we'll talk about here in just a little bit. But before we dive into it, let's get to a ludicrous trade idea coming in from FanDuel Sportsbook. This is insane. So they do have Justin Jefferson getting traded to the Buffalo Bills following the route of Stephon Diggs, and the Vikings in this package would receive 2 first-round picks in 2026 and 2027, a 7th-round pick, and Keon Coleman. This is nowhere near equal value that I think you could get for a Justin Jefferson trade, because these Bills first-round picks, like on paper, 2 first, a 7th, a young wide receiver, on paper that would make some sense for a Jefferson trade. However, these first-round picks will be later in the first round. So I think this is absolutely ludicrous, and FanDuel Sportsbook just do better. Now, obviously, I think they were kind of engagement farming by putting this out there, but you just got to be better than that. And a lot of people do ask me, hey, Patrick, would you ever consider trading the best wide receiver in the National Football League this offseason? And my answer is absolutely no way. There is no chance I'm trading Justin Jefferson, because you still have a young quarterback in J.J. McCarthy developing. And who is J.J. McCarthy's best friend? Obviously, even though the production between those two hasn't been up to par with the connection that Jefferson had with Kirk Cousins and Sam Darnold, just the attention that Jefferson demands out there on the football field. Every single time he runs a route, there are 4 to 6 eyeballs heading 18's way every single time. And that's why we have seen J.J. have a great connection with Jalen Nailor, start to build that connection with T.J. Hockenson, and start connecting with a couple of those deep shots to Jordan Addison this past weekend. So just the attention that Jefferson demands and the help he gives to his young quarterback, there's absolutely no way I would consider trading him this offseason. Now, maybe if next year goes poorly, Jefferson gets even more frustrated than what he already is, then maybe I would consider trading Jefferson. But as it stands right now, this offseason, Vikings shouldn't pick up the phone whatsoever. But you guys let me know, where do you stand? Would you ever trade Justin Jefferson? If you wouldn't ever trade him, go down there, show number 18 some love, and hit that thumbs up icon. But if you would trade Justin Jefferson this offseason, comment why down below. Now, I'm not saying I'm 100% right by my take of saying I would never trade Jefferson, but I'm curious to see what you guys have to say if you would move off number 18. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. So there's no doubt that the connection between J.J. and J.J. has been super rocky to start J.J. McCarthy's career. And I think that was on full display this past Sunday night versus the Dallas Cowboys, where J.J. McCarthy had a perfect passer rating of 158.3 when targeting everybody else besides Justin Jefferson. Now, when he was targeting Justin Jefferson, you see his passer rating right there, 0.0. So clearly J.J., he's got a good connection with everybody else, but the best wide receiver in the National Football League. And it even goes further than Sunday Night Football. Throughout this entire season, their connection's been a little rocky, and even his connection with Jordan Addison. Now, I think Addison, you can chalk that up to him having a couple of drops, but still, they haven't been on the same page. And you see his connection with Jalen Nailor. That's good stuff. His connection with T.J. Hockenson, you'll take that, but still, 30 of 61 when targeting Justin Jefferson, that's 49%. That's not going to be good enough. But even it goes further than that. Like Jefferson's stats with J.J. McCarthy, pretty bad. I mean, he's averaging 44 receiving yards per game. This was a man before the season was averaging 97 receiving yards per game in his NFL career. That's with many different quarterbacks. Nick Mullins, Jaron Hall, Josh Dobbs, Sam Darnold, Kirk Cousins. But with J.J. McCarthy, 43.9 targets per game, lower than his career average. Catches per game, obviously lower than his career average. And even he's just kind of not even really a solid deep threat with J.J. McCarthy, only averaging 11.7 yards per catch. And I do think majority of this should fall on J.J. McCarthy's shoulders because, listen, J.J. doesn't throw the most catchable football at this point of his career. Like, he has a very, very strong arm. Like, the velocity number 9 puts on these throws is up there to the level of some of the strongest arms in the National Football League. But J.J. does struggle with those loft throws, floating the ball over between 2 zones, giving the receiver a more catchable football, which is something I think J.J. McCarthy will improve on, because we already saw it this past weekend against Dallas. That one throw he had to T.J. Hockenson, the 4th and 3 throw he had to Jalen Nailor. There was a ton of loft, and he layered those footballs very, very well. But sometimes he puts a lot of heat on those. Even the one touchdown that Jefferson dropped, now he should catch that 99 times out of 100, but it did have a lot of heat on it So there's really no excuse, for them not having that connection built up already. And I also will say, like Jefferson has had his worst year so far in his NFL career. Like take the quarterback play out of it. I think even Jefferson would admit to you, like, yeah, like my drops, have been a problem, and that's really it. Like I still think Jefferson, like I got no concerns about him, regressing throughout his NFL career. I think next year he's going to get back to his 2022 version or his 2024 version where he was one of the most dominant non-quarterbacks in the league. I mean, that was a huge topic of conversation in Vikings land was like, could Jefferson have an MVP case in 2022? I mean, he came fifth in voting. He carried that Vikings team on his back. He had 1,800 yards, clutch catches in the fourth quarter. I mean, the fourth and 18 catch against Buffalo to beat the Bills. Like, that was some big-time stuff. So I'll ask you guys this. You guys let me know your thoughts. Are you concerned about the J.J. to J.J. connection? Give me a Y for yes or give me an N for no down below in the comments section. I'm a little concerned, but obviously this can change. And I fully expect them to just have one game the remainder of the season where Jefferson goes over 100 yards. You start seeing that connection build. I'm sure it's going to be a pretty special moment between these two because they obviously, they're good friends. They hang out a lot. And I just think they just need to get more reps because also you think about it, Jefferson, he was dealing with that hamstring injury during training camp. JJ had the high ankle sprain. Like, they really haven't been able to just, like, lock it in for a couple months and build that connection. So hopefully it gets better for the rest of the year, but no doubt in the offseason, I think that connection will really hit that next level. But coming up next year, I do want to talk about a change that the Minnesota Vikings need to make on the defensive line for the remainder of the season. I'll give you guys my thoughts there in just a second. But before we do so, I do want to tell you guys about today's presenting sponsor, and that is Factor Meals. Eat smart at factormeals.com/VikingsChat50 off and use code VikingsChat50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. Eating well during the holidays can feel impossible. That's why I use Factor's chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals to help me stay balanced and energized through the most indulgent time of the year. And I love Factor because they got more variety and more meals. You guys can choose from a wider selection of weekly meal options, including premium seafood choices like salmon and shrimp at no extra cost. And here covering the Vikings at Chat Sports, living a busier lifestyle. Sometimes I get off work at about 7 o'clock at night, and I don't always feel like making a home-cooked meal. That's where Factors came in and completely changed my life. So eat smart at factormeals.com/VikingsChat50 off and use promo code VikingsChat50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. That's code VikingsChat50 off at factormeals.com for 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. This exclusive holiday offer won't last. Lock in your savings before the New Year rush. Offer is only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. All right, so the change I want the Vikings to make on the defensive line is shutting down Jonathan Allen for the rest of this season. And I think this could be a soft benching for Jonathan Allen. He's just been playing some bad football. I mean, this past week against the Dallas Cowboys, he had a 27.7 PFF grade. He was absolutely horrible against the run. He was getting blown off the ball. He just doesn't really seem like he is that, obviously he's not near what he was back in Washington, but he also doesn't really seem like he's in the best shape right now or he's as physically as imposing as he was in the past. And, PFF, it's not just last week against Dallas. It's been the entire season. I mean, his overall grade is 49.2, which is 98th out of all eligible defensive tackles. Pass rush grade a little better at 66.3, but man, oh man, the run defense grade, 39.6, 111th out of 130 eligible defensive tackles. And it's not like in a limited sample size. This guy's played almost 700 snaps this season, so he clearly hasn't been good enough. And, also, the Vikings, if they do decide to trade Jonathan Allen, they can move off his contract. Now, if you cut him pre-June 1, you would have to bite the bullet and take on a good amount of dead cap and not a lot of cap savings. But if you could somehow find a trade suitor for Allen, which I do think is unlikely, maybe the Vikings could, attach a pick to move off his contract and save roughly around $3 million. Now, also a big reason why I think Jonathan Allen shouldn't play as much as he has been playing this year is because of the other guys. Now, obviously, all Vikings fans, Jalen Redmond is one of the coolest stories in the NFL. Overall PFF grade 16th in the league. Pass rush 62nd, but he has been unbelievable against the run this season. 7th in the entire NFL. This guy was in the XFL 2 years ago. As much as we criticize Kwesi in this front office, finding Jalen Redmond, a true diamond in the rough, has been one of their biggest success stories. Now, we thought it was going to be like a UDFA, like Ivan Pace, or a UDFA like Gabe Murphy, but I think it was the XFL standout the Vikings picked up, and that was Jalen Redmond. But I also want to see more of Levi Drake Rodriguez. Now, the PFF grades aren't going to blow you away, but I still have felt like LDR, he has popped in a couple of big games this year. Like, he'll have some big run plays, run stuffs here and there. He sheds blockers very, very well. And also for a guy that was a 7th-round pick, like, let this young man develop. And I think with him only getting 368 snaps, like, how about you just give Jonathan Allen, or you give Allen snaps to LDR? I think we'll see him develop over the last couple of weeks, and that should give you more flexibility this offseason where you're like, hey, yes, defensive tackle will probably be a need, but Javon Hargrave's actually played a little better, so I think you keep him. So you got Hargrave, Allen, Levi Drake Rodriguez, or how about the guy you drafted as well, Tieran Ingram Dawkins, TID. You know, he hasn't had a whole lot of snaps this season, but he's shown me enough where I'm like, okay, if you roll in next season with your 4 defensive tackles, maybe you draft another guy, maybe you sign another veteran of TID, LDR, Jalen Redmond, Javon Hargrave, like that's at least a good enough 4-man defensive tackle duo where obviously it's not top in the league, probably about middle of the pack to maybe a little bit below average compared to the rest of the defensive tackle units in the NFL. But I still think, like, if, let's just say if Levi Drake Rodriguez pops or TID pops, then we're feeling, very differently about this room. And, the Vikings focus for the rest of the season with them out of playoff contention. I still want them to go out there and win games, but let's develop some young talent. Like, is there really any reason to play Jonathan Allen anymore? I can't really see an argument to that. Like, this guy just isn't playing good football, first off. Like, if he was still playing very good football, then, yeah, obviously you're going to play him. But give the young guys a chance. LDR, TID, I want to see those guys play a whole lot more and just give Jalen Redmond every single snap defensively. That guy's been absolutely unbelievable. Major shout-out to number 61, Jalen Redmond. Slowly one of my favorite players on this Vikings roster. But if you guys made it to the end of today's show, hit me with a skull down below in the comments section. Appreciate all the real ones for watching this entire show. And we'll get on out of here. Shout out to you guys. As always, Skull Vikes.